This afternoon we're going to be covering the application renewal process. This webinar is the last webinar in our series this school year. We really want to let everyone know we appreciate you taking time to join us and learn a little bit about our application renewal process for this year. We are recording today's webinar. We'll turn that recording off before we get to the Q&A session, and we'll be posting both the webinar to YouTube and the slides to our SlideShare account, so you'll be able to access that later if need be. Okay, to talk really briefly about today's agenda, we're going to give a basic overview of the application renewal process. And our application renewal process really has two main parts. The first of which is a set of online activities, so getting into our CNP system and entering in some information about your sites and also about you, the sponsor. Our second part is really more of a paperwork process. So it's going to consist of downloading some forms, printing them, and then submitting those to the Food and Nutrition Division. Today we're going to go ahead and describe each of those documents and talk a little bit about who has to submit them, when they need to be submitted, and any kind of key details about those documents. We're going to talk about, we have just two new things for this year, and they're pretty simple, but we are excited to refine this process a little bit and hopefully streamline some things for the coming year. We'll talk about timeline and when stuff's going to be due, and then also we'll have time for questions, should anybody have any questions about our process. Okay, so to go ahead and jump into part one, which is our online activities, you're going to enter this information into our CNP system, and you can see a screenshot of what that home page looks like here. And this online portion is broken down into two further parts. The first is entering information as it relates to your sites, and we're going to go ahead and get into some screenshots and talk about that in detail. Then we'll roll that into our sponsor information page, and that'll give us some general information about your district. I see that we have some RCCIs who have joined us today, and some of you only have one site, so some of that may seem a little duplicative, but for our districts that are much larger, of course they have some up to a couple hundred sites, and then that sponsor info captures everything at that central district level. So that's why we have the two, and for folks with just one site, it may seem a little silly, but I just wanted to give a little bit of background on that. Okay, so to start off this process, you're going to, of course, log into CNP, and because I have a little different access than districts, my screenshots might look just a little different than yours, but we'll walk you through the main parts. So on that far left-hand side, under that green bar, you should see an Applications tab, and underneath that you're going to want to click on that Sponsor Application tab, which you can see here with that big blue arrow. Once you click on Sponsor Application, again, your screen will probably look a little different than mine, but the important part here is to make sure that you've used those two arrows that I've highlighted in that red box to make sure you're in school year 15-16. So of course we have information as it applies to each school year that you've participated in, and you want to make sure you're in that 15-16 school year, so we're capturing that correct time frame. Once you get onto that main page, you're going to go ahead and click on your sponsor name. And again, we want to make sure you're in the right school year here, so you're entering in the right information. And this will bring you to the sponsor information page. And this is really kind of the home page for a lot of the not only the information you'll need to enter, but also that form download section, which is where you'll find all the necessary paperwork for this year's application process. So again, I just want to highlight and make sure that folks know where to access that school year, and you can see that in this box that I've highlighted. And the first thing we're going to do is enter in that site level information. So you're going to access that by clicking on that green Go button next to site information, which I've highlighted here with that blue arrow. When you click on that, that'll bring you to your site information, and some of this is going to be pre-populated based on information you entered last year. If you're new, we'll have to do a few more steps, and we'll be entering in some information that you'll then be able to edit. But for folks that have done this process before and are already participating in the program, it's going to roll information over from the previous school year. And what we really want you to do here is check the information entered and make any revisions needed. So I'm just really showing the top part of that. You're going to go ahead and scroll down and go through all the information for that particular site and make any revisions that are needed to reflect what's going on for the coming school year. So it'll ask you questions about breakfast service and lunch service, among several other details. And you want to go through and make sure that's all correct. New to this year, and it was last year as well, but we really want to highlight and make sure folks understand. We entered in information where you can let us know if you're pursuing that community eligibility provision or select any other special provisions you're pursuing. And again, if you want to do that, you'll need to submit a formal letter to request to participate. If you're participating in any of the special provisions, you'll want to enter in that provision base year, and that applies to Provision 2 as well as CEP. And we've had a little confusion in the past, so we wanted to go ahead and clarify that the base year entered should be the greater number of the school year cycle. So if you're going to start up a new special provision in the coming school year, that would be that base year. So if that's 15-16, you'd enter in 2016 into that box. We just want to make sure folks understand that. Once you've got everything completed for that site information, you're going to go ahead and click Submit. Next, we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about the sponsor application. So this is going to be information that applies to you as a whole as a sponsor, whether you're an RCCI or a district, sort of that district level information. And to do that, we come back to that sponsor information page where we see those green Go buttons on the left. Again, you want to make sure you're in that 15-16 school year. And you want to go ahead and click on that green Go circle next to Sponsor Application. So once you click on that, it's going to pull up a page that's going to have information that's been rolled over if you've already been participating in the program. And here, similar to your site level application, if we're rolling over, we want you to check and make sure that all the information entered is correct. And then you're going to make any revisions that are needed. So if you've had changes in number of serving days, you'll need to reflect that there. If any of your district information has changed, you'll enter that there. Because CNP does send some automated emails, you want to go through and make sure that all the contact information entered on this sponsor application, especially the email address, is correct. We also pull information here to check our contact list for all of our sponsors. So really, I can't emphasize enough making sure that that contact information you're entering in here is correct. And similar to the site application, you're going to go ahead and scroll down through that page and make sure everything's there. I wanted to highlight an area that we found to be a little bit troublesome in the past. On the sponsor application, it's going to list your number of sites, and it's going to pull that information from what you've entered in on that site level application. So it's critical that you enter that site level information first, because it'll then pull through on this sponsor application page and pre-populate stuff that will then dictate what fields you're able to enter information on those estimated number of meals. So if you have some trouble with this spot, you may need to go back and check some of that site level information and make sure that you clicked breakfast on schools that are serving breakfast, click snack on schools that you want to participate in the snack program with, to make sure that you're able to enter in those estimated number of meals. Once you've got that all complete, you're going to want to go ahead and click Submit so that we can then look at that information and check that out. Okay, to do a little recap, you want to make sure you're clicking Submit so that stuff comes through to us. We'd like you to notify us once you've completed the online portion of your application. And to do that, you'll want to email Vicki Graves, and I've included her email address here. And because this is sort of part one of a two-step process, we just want to let folks know that once we've received all of your paperwork and approved all the online information, then we'll approve your application in CNP. So that's sort of the completing the first step, but you'll need to complete the second step before we approve it in CNP. Now to talk about our paperwork process and what forms have to be printed and submitted. So all the forms that you need access to can be downloaded from CNP, and we're going to show you where to find those and also talk about what needs to be completed on those forms and who needs to fill out what and send what in. You may not need all forms, and we'll talk about kind of who needs to send in what. If you're a new sponsor and this is your first year coming on the program, then you'll need to submit everything that we're going to talk about today. We've also developed a checklist to help ensure that all documents are submitted and that we have everything we need to approve your application. Okay, so back to CNP on that sponsor information page. The form download, you'll click on that green go circle to access the forms you'll need for this application process. Once you click on that button, you'll see the screen I show here, and if you click on that blue underline portion, that'll allow you to open up that file and download that form. So you'll want to get in here, click on that link, and that'll pull up the information you need. The first document you'll see on that list is what we're calling an application checklist. And what this is a list of all the documents that you need to have submitted, and also is sort of a prompter on the online portion. So it'll talk about the CNP school site information, talks about CNP sponsor information, also gives you a little reminder that the previous year's site review, racial, ethnic, civil rights, health inspection information also has to be submitted in CNP. However, not all of it will apply to you. So we also have a box on food service management companies. If your district utilizes one of those, it includes information on what will need to be submitted to us, but that may not apply to you. We also have a separate checklist for RCCIs. So since they operate in a little different fashion and we need a little different set of documents, we've outlined those in a separate checklist. So you just want to make sure you pull the right one for whatever type of program you have. And we really want to encourage folks to use this checklist to ensure all the required documents are submitted. We don't want this to be more of a burdensome process, so we're really hopeful that this can help folks understand what they need to submit so that we don't have to go back and forth and request further information. We have two things that are new this year. We've added on a requirement for you to submit a completed paid lunch equity tool, and that just applies to our NSLP sponsors. You won't see that on the RCCI checklist because, of course, you don't have any paid kids, generally speaking. And we'd also like you to submit a copy of your wellness policy. We know that this has been a transitional year for folks, but we'd like you to submit your wellness policy, and we're going to run that through a checklist and provide you with any feedback if it's not quite up to speed with our revised Nevada school wellness policy. Okay, the next document you'll see on that form download list is an application statement, and it kind of looks like a checklist, so there's been a little bit of confusion in the past, but really this form, we just need some written confirmation on a couple of items. So you'll need to print, sign, and return this to the Food Nutrition Division. And this is required for all school districts and RCCIs. So both groups will need to complete this form and sign that and send that on back. The next form we have is the attestation. It has a very challenging title. And really what this form is it's just you signing off that you agree to adhere to the meal pattern. And this form must be printed, signed, and submitted. And it's required for both our NSLP and our CCI folks. So everyone's going to need to sign one of these. And again, that's really just you stating that you'll adhere to all meal pattern requirements. Thankfully this year we don't have any new requirements coming down the pipeline. So if you were in compliance last year, you'll be able to roll that over and keep going this year. Next we have our policy statement. And the policy statement is really a document that outlines how you'll be handling the meal benefit process and meal counting and claiming. It's only required if you're a new sponsor, of course, and if you've made any changes to how you do your meal counting and claiming. So if we have a current one for you on file and you didn't change anything from last year, we don't need you to submit one, which I'm sure some folks will be happy to hear. We have a separate form for our NSLP sponsors, our RCCI sponsors, and those just participating in special milk. So you'll want to go ahead and look for the one that applies to you and complete that. If you are submitting one, you're in a situation where you'll need to submit one to us, you're going to print and sign that and send that on in. Next we have what we call our certification page, and this is required if you have a change in your designated official. And we've had some questions in the past, and we want to make sure folks understand that the governing board member, who is the person whose name is kind of on that second line, cannot appoint themselves as the designated official. So you'll want to just kind of read through and make sure that you're filling out the right name in the right spot, and that the person doing the appointing is not the same person as the designated official. If you are in a situation where you need to complete a new one of these, you may need a little lead time to get this on your school board agenda. Some of our smaller sponsors, it may be a little easier for the RCCIs, but if you're a school board, especially our larger school districts, we want to let folks know as soon as possible that you may need to get this on your board agenda pretty quickly to meet the deadline. Next we have our permanent agreement. If this is your first year on the program, you must submit a signed permanent agreement, and this is that legal document where you state that you're going to adhere to all those federal requirements. If you're a returning sponsor and we need an updated signed agreement, we'll notify you. We had some dated forms, and we'll go ahead and comb through those and let folks know who needs to submit an updated one. We don't want to make everyone turn one in because we don't necessarily need one from everyone. Okay, so new this year, two main items. The first is that we'd like you to submit a completed paid lunch equity tool for the coming school year. Must be submitted with the application packet. And I put in the link of where you can pull down that Excel document. And if you need any assistance completing it, please feel free to contact us. We're more than happy to help assist in completing that tool. It can be a little cumbersome. This year, we're also going to need you to submit a revised wellness policy. So that must be submitted with your application packet. And again, we're just going to do a run through and make sure it's compliant with the new Nevada School Wellness Policy. We have a checklist, and we'll be doing a little screening and giving you any feedback if there are any changes you need to make. We've also posted a few other helpful documents in that forms download section. You'll find a reporting due dates document, and we've created this so that there's a one-stop shop for reporting requirements over the course of the whole school year. That was some feedback we got from districts that it would be helpful if they could kind of see on one document what are the main requirements, and we've outlined those there. It'll also let you know what documents you need to submit to the state agency versus what documents you're going to keep on hand for us to check out when we do that administrative review. We have our user ID form, and that's just sort of a reminder that you'll need to pull down that form anytime you want to add or remove users from our CNP system or Mustang. We also have a document outlining the menu standards, and as I said before, there aren't any changes for this coming school year. So the requirements for last year are rolling right over to this year, which after several years of changes, I'm sure folks are happy to hear that. We also have our vendor registration or vendor information change form, and that's for payment. Most of you won't need to fill that out, but if you ever find yourself in that situation, that's where you'll access that document. We've also posted our income eligibility table for the coming school year. So that's that table that tells you household size and income and whether or not they qualify for free or reduced meals. We've also posted the application template, and we posted a document that is the Word document with kind of the whole kit and caboodle, everything all together. It's got the parent letter, sample verification forms, everything's all together in one Word document. USDA did send out a prototype, and we sent that out as a numbered memo. It does have some limitations. It's really more oriented towards an electronic processing. So we've decided to post the USDA template that includes all the information, and you can essentially use either. I think most folks are going with the older template that we've uploaded here, and so you can access that there. Once verification kicks up too, you can go on that forms download section and pull up that Word document to use those verification template letters. We also want to let folks know if you aren't using the USDA template, you're going to need to submit a sample application for us to approve. And if you have any questions on that, please feel free to give us a call. Okay, to talk a little bit about timeline. CNP is now open and ready for you to start entering in your 15-16 applications. So we want to encourage folks to get in there and get rolling on that. The forms that we've talked about today are all uploaded into the CNP system and ready to be downloaded. In terms of due dates, we'd like all of our RCCIs to get those applications into us by June 1st. This is a lot of documentation for us to process, so we need adequate time to get that going before July 1. So really, I want to emphasize RCCIs to please submit their information by June 1st. For our school district sponsors, we'd like you to have all your documentation into us by June 15th. And if you have any questions or you're coming up against any barriers and you don't think you can make that deadline, just go ahead and reach out to us, give us a call, and let us know what's going on so we can sort out a plan. Wanted to just provide a point of clarity that all the documents we've talked about today that need to be printed, signed, and submitted, so long as you have a color scanner, you can go ahead and sign those documents. And again, we need those original signatures in blue ink. But if you have a color scanner, you can go ahead and scan those and email those to us. So if that's easier for you, go ahead and scan and email. We don't necessarily need an original copy. And we'd like you to email all those documents to Vicki Graves, and I've included her email address here. And really thinking about completing the whole entire process, once all the online portions of your application are completed and approved, and we've received all your paper documents and those are involved and approved, we'll turn around and send out a formal approval letter that will let you know that your application's been renewed and you're approved to continue participating in the program. It'll also give you information on which sites are approved for severe need breakfast and whether or not you get a high-low rate. There's a few different rates that we pay you on based on a couple pieces of information. You'll find that all in that formal approval letter. All right, now we're going to go ahead and stop the recording. And if anybody has any questions,